Good morning. This morning I have with me Stephen Wyatt, who's from the Felixstowe Fairtrade Forum, who's going to explain about the Felixstowe side of it, about Fairtrade, and a lot of other interesting bits and pieces which go along with it. So, good morning, Stephen.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for inviting me.
That's my pleasure, my absolute pleasure, because I think it's going to be very, very interesting to everybody. So far away, tell us all about how Felixstowe Fairtrade Forum started.
Okay, well, there was a group of us about 6 years ago who were concerned about fair trade. Fair trade is giving growers in poorer countries a fair price. It's not about charity. It's not about just giving money for money's sake.
No.
And we wanted to encourage more shops in Felixstowe and cafes to stock fair trade goods. We wanted to encourage people to find out about it and buy fair trade products. So we held a meeting, I think it was in June 2007.
Yeah.
As a result of that, we had 22 people commit to membership of the forum. And then we've worked to encourage Felixstowe to become a fair trade town.
Yeah.
Now, you have to do quite a lot to become a fair trade town. You have to have the support of the town council. We've got a very supportive council here.
Good.
So they passed a resolution and they support fair trade themselves with their fair trade refreshments. And we've managed to have a fair trade town sign on the entrances to Felixstowe, where the town sign is. So we have the support of the town council.
Yeah.
We have to have a number of shops and cafes depending on the population size, and we've got that, who stock fair trade goods. We have to have an ongoing campaign, so this is very helpful because it adds to that. We have to have a committed group that are meeting regularly to plan the campaign and plan activities. And so it's all going very well. We achieved Fair Trade Town status in 2009, and we've had that renewed every 2 years since. So just recently in February. February is Fair Trade Fortnight, which is a national event. So that gives us a particular platform to organise a number of events.
How many is, you're saying 2009, that's when Felixstowe became a fair trade town. How many towns, roughly, would you say in the UK?
Oh, a lot. I would think several hundred. Yes. So by no means the first.
No, but I'm sort of,
it's a growing campaign, and I think the size of the fair trade market now in the UK is several £100 million worth of goods.
That's an awful lot, lot. Yeah, and of course you know exactly, because it's always labelled, isn't it, fair trade?
Yes, it is. It has this mark on it.
Explain.
So any product that is fairly traded will have this sign on it. And what I understand is that this is the head of a person, and this is their body and arm, and this is the world. So it's a bringing everybody together and providing a fair outlet for people in developing countries, particularly poor farmers and growers, and giving us a way in which we can get what we want, because we want to eat their bananas and drink their coffee.
Exactly.
But at the same time, we're making sure they have a better price for what they produce.
Yeah, which is the important thing, isn't it? And that's what it's all about. So, if you can give a rough idea of how the whole fair trade movement works, exactly what fair trade means.
Actually, right. Okay, so there's an international organisation, and they control whether a product meets the standards or not. So to do that, the grower or the producer has to have minimum environmental sustainable conditions, so that they're not doing the environment down through the way they produce their crop. They have to have reasonable working conditions for any of their workers. And equally, the buyer, that might be a big chain, a shop or whatever, has to meet the agreed price. And that's a price agreed between the producer, the buyer and the fair trade organisation. And what happens if you don't do that is that the market tends to discriminate against small, poorer producers. So it's giving them a fairer price. What also happens is that there's a little premium that comes on top and that has to be used within the community where the grower is. So that can go towards schooling or health facilities. So there's a sort of community benefit as well.
Yes.
So when you're buying a fair trade product, you're hopefully buying something that you want, that you enjoy, but you also know that you are helping to sustain a fair trade across the world.
Exactly, and also the education, as you say, with the education and health facilities as well, which is so important to a lot of countries, because that's the sort of thing. It's not possible for them. So yeah, that's really good, isn't it? How did you actually get involved yourself, Stephen?
Well, I've always been interested in these sorts of issues. Perhaps originally through Christian Aid, which is a charity, but Fairtrade isn't.
Yes.
But Christian Aid also has this principle of trying to work with organisations and with people to help them become self-sustaining.
Yeah.
So it's this old proverb, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day, but if you can teach him how to fish, then he becomes self-sustaining.
Yes, exactly.
So I've always been interested in that and in that principle.
Yeah.
And so I met a few other people a few years ago in Felixstowe, and from that we decided we should try and do something locally.
Yes, exactly, which is fantastic. And you're saying you had 22 members at the beginning. I mean, how has that actually grown over the last 6 years?
Well, we've got 170 odd individual members now.
Right.
And we've also opened a corporate membership section. So organisations, could be not-for-profit organisations, community organisations, or businesses can also join up. And I think we've got 14 of those at the moment.
Right.
And so one of our priorities at the moment is to try to encourage more organisations to become committed. It's free. You don't have to pay anything to join our organisation.
Just use the goods.
But you have to be committed to the principle and use the goods. Yes.
Yeah. Which is fantastic, isn't it? It's so you have it. I mean, can anybody still become a member? Can they just come along and contact you and?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, I have a membership form here.
There's a membership form, right?
If you're interested.
Here we go.
This is a little leaflet that we produced, which explains what Fairtrade is about, and gives you our website details and contacts with our local organisation.
Fantastic.
And so we promote this. We give these out at events and in shops and so on.
Yes.
And so people can join up using this, or you can join up using our website.
Yeah, which we'll actually have on our website at the end of this interview, so you can contact Steve or anybody else there, directly, which is fantastic. So, what events have you got coming up?
Well, I think our next event is we're going to take part in the is it called the Waves event?
Felixstowe Waves,
Felixstowe Waves, to commemorate the seaplanes.
Yes.
So there's going to be lots of stalls there, but we'll have one. And then we usually take part in Art on the Prom in September, so we'll be there too. So we want to be part of the town events.
Yes.
And we find that's a better way of meeting people. We do organise the occasional public meeting, particularly once a year at least.
Yes.
So I think this year we're planning to have a Fairtrade wine tasting evening.
Now that's a good idea.
Yes, that is.
That's a very good idea.
That has been popular in the past.
Yes.
So we're looking to do that sometime in November.
Right.
Yeah. And every February there's a national Fairtrade fortnight. So we have displays and coffee mornings and competitions and all sorts of things there.
Yeah. Of course, we were saying we've also got the carnival, of course, coming up.
We have, yes. I think we're probably not able to take part this year, but we have done in the past.
Right. Okay. So it's anything like that, really, isn't it, to get involved? Tell us about some of your past events and how local businesses, schools have got involved.
Yes. Well, Colney School, for example, a few years ago organised a Fairtrade fashion evening, which was very successful. They, the children did a lot of the work. It was sponsored by the Parents Association as well. And some very brave people, not me I'm afraid, some very brave people actually modelled all the goods, all the clothing and garments that Fairtrade producers have got, and there are quite a few of them locally, actually. So there was that, and another school, Grange,
Yes.
they did a lot of work during Fairtrade Fortnight a couple of years ago, and they invited their parents in to see what they've done, and they had Fairtrade cakes that they'd made.
Yes.
Actually, we are looking for people to make Fairtrade cakes for our stalls, and we're hoping to put some recipes up on the website.
Ah, that's a good idea.
And then anyone who is a cake maker and willing to have a go, we'd be very pleased to receive them.
Very good idea. So there you are. You
So
sort of
lots of ways.
bakers out there, get cooking.
Lots of ways you can get involved.
Yes, there definitely are. Yeah, definitely. Oh my goodness. And anything else in the past that really sticks out in your mind?
We did one time we went round to support the shops and the cafes that do stock Fairtrade goods. So we sort of had a little march with a banner and went to each one and presented them with a poster and a badge for their staff and so on, and that was quite fun to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's very, very, there's loads of things you can do, isn't there? And it's very, very varied, not like anything else, I suppose, really. So it's really, sort of getting involved and, sort of take it forward. I mean, I know the co-op definitely sells Fairtrade, because I've definitely bought Fairtrade goods from there myself. Yes,
the co-op is very committed to Fairtrade. But you can find Fairtrade goods in Marks and Spencer's, for example. And of course, we've got a lot of cafes in Felixstowe.
We have an awful lot of cafes in Felixstowe.
The majority of them will be offering Fairtrade tea, coffee, sugar as one of their options.
Yes.
So it's a growing issue, really, and more shops are taking it on board. I think several £100 million worth of Fairtrade goods traded in the UK every year.
Yes.
So it's very much a growing issue.
Yes. Yeah. I'm very interested about the clothing side. I mean, you sort of do think about, you say, the produce, bananas, tea, coffee, that sort of thing. Yeah. But clothing, because there's been a real stigma about sort of clothing coming from places like India and Pakistan, where you've got more or less child slave labour. Yeah. So how does this protect?
Well, I think it was it not in Bangladesh where there was this
awful,
terrible disaster?
Terrible, the building collapsed.
In fact, one of the things that we were able to say is that this T-shirt is a Fairtrade cotton T-shirt, and if you were to buy a Fairtrade garment, you know that the people who are produced that are working in acceptable conditions. Exactly. Because otherwise they wouldn't get the Fairtrade mark.
No.
So you know that there will be some degree of safety, and there will be a concern about the environment in which they work.
Yes.
And you can buy, I have to say, it's probably more attractive for women than men.
Yeah.
I think we've got the T-shirt, but you could have scarves, blouses, cardigans, dresses, all sorts of really beautiful things.
Yeah.
Mostly coming from Asian countries, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh, but always coming from workers who've got a say in their job.
Right.
They're not just being exploited.
No.
So you know that you're not only doing something that gives them a fairer price, but you're doing something that means they've got a better way, a better standard of working.
Yeah, exactly. Just living. Because that was terrible. I mean, looking at Bangladesh,
awful,
it was.
Yeah. And it was a wake-up call to us, wasn't it? That,
it was total.
We're all involved in that because we just buy the things that are cheap and we don't think about how they've got to us.
Well, this is the thing. Unfortunately, that's aimed at the teenage market mainly for the clothes, and obviously teenagers haven't got that money to go out and spend all these big bucks and these big sort of high-powered companies. So they see the cheap stuff, and unfortunately, these companies are the ones which are exploiting a lot of this child labour.
Well, they are, yes. But in terms of buyers, I'm not sure that it's just teenagers. I think.
Well, no, but
we as adults have to start thinking about
what we're
doing and where it's come from.
Yeah, we do. We've all got to. You're quite right. Well, Stephen, I think you've been given fantastic insight. into Fairtrade. If there's anything else you want to add, please do.
No, well, we're very grateful to have this opportunity to come.
Thank you very much for coming and talking.
As I say, look out for us. Look at our website. We're always putting out our latest events on the website.
Yes.
And don't forget to make those cakes.
Exactly. So get baking. Thank you very much, Stephen.
Thank you.
Thank you.